So just finding your way to a comfy seat, something that allows you to be at ease. Really, that ease is for your spine. So think about the leg positioning, the seat positioning, etc., that allows the spine to settle here. And then let's start to tune into our respiration. Maybe let the eyes close. There's this beautiful giant raven soaring over the forest. It's just above tree line so that the updraft constantly being bounced by the trees beneath it. And it's just playing with this change in updraft as it soars along. We'll give ourselves just about 20 more seconds here just to feel into breath. When it feels appropriate for you, let's walk ourselves out into a little forward fold. Just a brief little forward fold, just to feel into the posterior chain and anything that's going on there. And then we'll bring ourselves back upright. Allow the chin to lift. And as the chin lifts, feel the sternum shift forward. Then feel that anterior chain across the belly, across the sternum, through the throat. And then we'll relax back to neutral. Let's transition to hands and knees tabletop. So we're going to take a moment just to wake up the spine a little bit, splay the fingers out wide, establish that solid base of tabletop, and we'll exhale out, round the back, tuck the chin, tuck the tailbone into that flexion, cat articulation. And then inhale, drop the belly, lift the tailbone, lift the chin into that extension, cow articulation. And then let's just take a moment here just to explore those two shapes. So you've had some time to feel into the edges of each of those shapes. I don't want to guide time-wise. I want you to spend the appropriate amount of time in all of these articulations of the spine so that your spine starts to receive the most benefit, or receives the most benefit, starts and then fully receives. As you bow the back up and as you round into that cat shape, really think about how the spinal flexion is impacting the entirety of the spinal column. And then the same thing as you go into extension. The belly drops, the chin lifts, the tailbone lifts. Thinking in really deeply about how you're impacting the spine. Give yourself just 20 more seconds here. Just enough time to wrap any last beneficial movements up. And when you're ready, Let's sink back into child's pose. Although the anterior hip crease has not really been warmed up, depending on how your first forward fold was played out, but think about what you can do with the torso space that you've created, with the spinal space you've created, and how that can settle you more deeply into the bottom, into the landing space of this child's pose. And then start to utilize your breath to unlock even deeper access to release, to landing, to the foundation of the shape. We'll give ourselves just 15 more seconds here. When it feels appropriate for you, we'll pull ourselves back to tabletop. And from tabletop, we're going to exhale out, round the middle of the back, tuck the chin, tuck the tailbone, and then start to sway the spine. Now, I'm saying the spine because this can be tailbone centric. This can work across the shoulder girdle. This can be from that thoracic joint in the middle of the back. But move your back left to right and see if you can create some space along those lateral chains or the lateral edges of the posterior chains. And eventually we'll drift back to neutral and then exhale and let the belly fall, chin lift, tailbone lift, and have the same opportunity to explore. It's easier to feel like this needs to be tailbone centric, but if you really play with your lateral movement here, this can again work across the shoulder girdle in the middle of the back. Depends on what you're willing to let move. And then when you feel balanced, we'll draw the belly back up to neutral, flip the tops of the feet, and sink back into one last child's pose. As this raven is gliding just above the tops of the trees, this little pebble wedged between its beak is glimmering and sparkling in the sunlight. Last 15 seconds here. And when it feels appropriate, let's pull ourselves to tabletop and we'll extend our legs straight out in front of us, a little staff. As you get into staff, let's engage both of our blankets or towels. And let's take the first one and just fold that from shelf fold to hot dog fold. So we end up here. And the second blanket can just be here for your future needs. Actually, let's take that second blanket right now. Let's access that. We're going to unfold that so that it becomes towel length, and then we'll roll that. And that'll be a little prop for the legs. So we'll bring the knees to a bent position, take that first blanket now and tuck that over the ankles and wrap it underneath, and then let the legs fall out wide. The second blanket is going to be a low back bend. So we're looking for this to be somewhere below the bottom of the scapula. I'm going to let you choose where it will make the most impact. As you lower yourself down, there's kind of a natural tendency with Bada Sukhasana leg positioning to get this lumbar extension. So this should feel relatively at ease. If it doesn't, pull the blanket from underneath you out and let that settle. Let your back settle. If you're good with this little low back bend, you want the sacrum to be anchored. So you don't want the sacrum lifted by the blanket, and then you don't want the blanket on the shoulder blades. If by chance you have torso geometry that just doesn't work with that, you could fold that blanket again, or you could make it longer so that you have less density. But once we arrive in a space where our low back bend feels supported, let's really settle into our breath here. Don't restrict yourself from moving or tweaking or adjusting to better your position. Allow yourself full access to getting into the ideal shape for your body. And then really tune in to the rate of respiration. About where your body is making the most contact, how you can utilize your breath to more evenly distribute the points of contact with the mat or the blanket over the entirety of your body. as this raven soars, eventually the trees give way to an opening. In that opening below the raven, there's this little village. The raven drops down and is gliding between these buildings. Until it lands on this second-story windowsill. And with its beak, it knocks against the windowsill. Drops the pebble on the little ledge. And then flies off into the horizon. A few beats later, the window flies open, and this little boy reaches out and he grabs this pebble that this raven has just dropped. And holding it in the palm of his hand, he's certain that he's holding the most beautiful and perfect thing the world has ever seen, witnessed, or created. Every moment from that moment, that pebble travels with the boy wherever he goes. Give ourselves about 60 more seconds here. Feels appropriate for you. Bring our knees back to neutral. And let's use one of the ankles just to bring this foot prop up, and we'll roll to our side. Press yourself up high enough that you can adjust the blanket that we had going across our mat so that it travels the length of the mat. It's going to be a spine rest. The second blanket is going to kind of make a little circle at the top. So we're going to take this shape and put it at the top here so that our head can rest inside of this blanket prop. You can kind of adjust the height of your head based upon where it falls within that circle. So if you're in the middle of that circle, your head will be lower. If you rest higher, you'll have more lift. But we're going to have that as a head benefit, kind of as a secondary piece. Eventually, we'll roll back onto our prop and adjust ourselves into a place where we're comfortable here. And then let the arms extend up, palms facing towards the ceiling so that there's a little lift. We're trying to keep the shoulders integrated here. And then the legs can be wherever. The knees can stay bent or the legs can extend. Really think about shoulder integration. So the nice thing here is while we have a back bend, generally that means our shoulder capsule is going to be below the sternum. Here we're staying with the shoulder capsule in line with the arms overhead. You also have the ability to internally and externally rotate just by the direction of your hand up. But as you take the hands and roll towards the pinky side, you'll get some external rotation. As you roll towards the index thumb side, you'll get some internal rotation. And the arms can be more extended or they can be more towards cactus, but we do want to have this little bit of lift for the shoulder capsule. Sacrum is once again firmly planted. Head is comfortably rested. And the shoulders are in a position where blood flow restriction can very easily be exposed. One of the things that we kind of just get away with because our arms are generally roughly in line with the heart, right? It's pretty easy to get blood flow in and out. But we spend so much time in shoulder impinged positions that blood flow restriction into the arms can just kind of slowly happen over time. So as you put your arms overhead, if you're like immediately feeling, oh, my arms are starting to go numb, we want to play with the internal external rotation. Generally, external rotation is going to allow more blood flow. But we also want to play with how the shoulder capsule itself is integrated to maximize blood flow. There's no reason for arms being overhead to put us in a position where we're losing blood flow to our hands because everything's in line with the heart, right? Circulatory system should have its easiest opportunity to move blood. So we know there's a physical impingement that's causing that. So adjust until you feel optimized. This little boy runs downstairs holding this pebble, and as he runs into the kitchen, his parents are there, and he rushes up to them and he shows them this new beautiful part of his life, this earthly creation. And he runs off to school. When he gets to school, he shows all his friends, shows his teacher, shows the principal. He shows students who aren't his friends. Everyone that he can share this beauty with, he does. We're going to give ourselves 90 more seconds here. During recess, he has this little stone in his pocket. And they're playing a game of tag. And he's running and he keeps reaching down into his pocket to make sure it's there. One time he reaches down and it's not there. He instantly feels this grip of terror across him. And he starts frantically searching through the grass. Eventually, bring our knees to a bent position if they're not already. And we can bring the arms down, let the blanket over the head just kind of get pulled to the side. And then bring your arms down by your side and let the base that you've offered, the shoulders, sink in. Really feel how the blood flow works into the arms here. Palms up to maintain that external rotation. Seconds here. And when it feels appropriate, let's just roll off our prop one side or the other, whatever side feels most beneficial. We can take that blanket out from underneath us and just fold that block like. I like that we've put some body weight on this so we get some nice density here. We're going to slide that back underneath us, underneath the tailbone, lifting up just high enough to get a little elevated, supported bridge. The arms here wherever feels best. So if cactus feels like it's too much because we've just had the arms in that overhead position, you can stay down by your side. You can go straight out towards T. You're welcome to use cactus here. Settle in. And think about how the blood flow into your arms, into your fingers, into your fingerprints is increased here as we elevate the hips now above the shoulders and tilt that scale, that gravitational scale, towards the torso. Legs can be extended, knees can be bent, bottoms of the feet can be together if that feels best for you. Eventually, after some time searching, this little boy is reunited with his prized possession. That night, when he goes home, he starts crying. to his father to sew pockets with zippers into all of his pants, so that he'll never be in a position again where that could happen. And after some hours of crying and begging and negotiating, they end up putting these little tiny pebble-sized pockets on his clothes. And so from that day forward, when he gets up in the morning, he puts the pebble in the little pebble pocket, and he goes about his day, checking in with it, taking it out to admire it, but never having the opportunity to lose it again. Think not just about this blood flow shift, but also about how the sacrum and the lumbar are responding to the height, right? Generally, what we think of as our primary targets in a supported bridge. And then make sure that if there's tweaks or adjustments that you can make that would impact, benefit you, that you make them. Think about how you can shift and tweak the rate of respiration so that the physicality of your body is more at ease. Continue to find more softness in the breath. And let that softness in the breath continue to offer more softness in the physicality of the body. Feel the support underneath you and how that's impacting your body's ability to breathe, your body's ability to relax. Next piece we're going to do is we're going to work some internal rotation on the left shoulder. And so to do that, we're going to see what it feels like to tuck our left shoulder underneath our lumbar here. So lumbar is lifted. Let's tuck our left shoulder underneath. Tuck our left hand underneath so that the left shoulder gets the internal rotation. If that feels like it's too much, you can come out towards more of a wilted cactus and you can continue to extend that arm until it feels accessible. If this feels like you have more space, you can lift the tailbone high enough to slide the blanket out and release down so that you get the body weight helping to kind of lock in that internal rotation. The biggest thing that we don't want to do is we don't want the front of the shoulder capsule popping out and creating pressure on this anterior tissue, because then we're just restricting the blood flow again, right? We work so hard to make blood flow happen in the arms. The goal is to relax into the front of the shoulder, to feel the humeral head settle against the mat behind you, and to have the palm down underneath your back, or extended outwards depending on your shoulder's mobility capacity. Just settle in to a little breath. We have lots of opportunities here. One thing that you could do, if you'd like, is you could take the knees into a twist to the right. That is certainly an opportunity. You can let the bottoms of the feet come together, knees fall out wide, or you can extend the legs. But we want something where we can really feel relaxed in the shoulder capsule across the entirety of the shoulder girdle. One night, the little boy comes home from school and he has a permission slip. And the permission slip is so that he can go with his class to the river tomorrow, a little field trip. His parents sign it and send him back to school. Next morning, he wakes up, puts his little precious stone in his zipper pocket, heads off to school, absolutely elated to spend some time at the local river. All the kids get in a bus, they head down to the river. And when they get there, some of the kids start finding stones. And they all know about this little boy's precious stone. They keep coming up and they keep saying, look at this, let's compare them. And so he keeps pulling out his stone and comparing it to others. When he's doing that, he drops his stone into this little muddy section. And he kind of wipes the mud off. But the sun starts to dry the residue, and so his little sparkly stone just kind of looks cloudy and gray. And he's looking at it and he's like, ugh, And he's trying to wipe it off with his shirt, but the mud is just caked on there, dried on there in this little film, and it just won't wipe off. He briefly considers spitting on his shirt, but he knows that his mom would be absolutely disgusted if he did that. And so he walks down to the river to wash this little pebble. Last 40 seconds here. When it feels appropriate for you. If you're off of the blanket prop, let's slide that back underneath you so you have that little height. And then we'll take our left arm out and just let the palm roll up. Let that external rotation release. You can kind of feel how internal rotation impingement restricts blood flow generally for most of us as blood flow rushes back in. And why it's so important to get that internal rotation space. And then we'll move to the second side, right? So right hand's gonna see if it can make it underneath our lumbar. If that doesn't work, you can extend that right arm out. Again, palm down. And then if it feels like there's enough space, you can slide that prop out from underneath you and release the tailbone down. Then you have some options. Bottoms of the feet can come together, knees can fall out wide, knees can fall into a twist. You can extend the legs, whatever feels most ideal or most beneficial for you in this moment. As he dips his hands into the river, holding the stone, he's shocked by how cold the water is. That coldness almost cripples his fingers as that frigid water rushes by. And before he even knows what's happened, his little stone has fallen out of his hands. And he frantically plunges his hands down to the bottom of the river. And he pulls up a handful of rocks. And he's just discarding them one by one, looking for his stone. And he gets to the end of his handful and it's not there. And he reaches down again and he's just continually plucking handfuls of stones from the bottom of the river and just throwing them to the side one by one as they're not his. And his hands and his feet are now in the water, and he's getting colder and colder. And his movement's becoming more and more frantic. Give yourself just about 20 more seconds here on this second side. And when it feels appropriate for you, we'll elevate the hips enough to slide that hand out. You can release the hips back down to the mat. Let both palms face up towards the ceiling. Feel that external rotation impact the blood flow. As you settle here, ask yourself if there's anything that you might want, need, or could benefit from prior to Shavasana. And if there is, let's offer that to our body now. And if you have everything that you might want, everything that you might need for Shavasana, let's drift our way into a shape where we can appreciate fully some stillness. A little call rings out as everyone's told to get back on the bus. This little boy starts moving even more frantically through handfuls and handfuls of stone. bottom of the river. Just settling into your version of stillness. When you're ready. Eventually, one of the teachers comes over, sees this little boy in tears, scooping stones from the bottom, and he asks what's going on. The boy explains. The teacher reaches down and grabs a handful of pebbles, and he holds them up to the boy. And as he does, the sunlight hits this handful of pebbles in a way where each stone is illuminated and glistening and reflective. And this young boy sees for the first time that these stones from the bottom of the river are all amazing and beautiful in their very own way. We'll start to move our fingers and our toes. Let that movement expand up into your wrists and your ankles, your knees, your elbows, shoulders and hips, neck and head, jaw, eyes, tongue. Eventually, the entirety of our body will move, and we'll utilize that movement to transition from the shapes we are in back into a seat. And in the seated space, spine gets tall, breath gets fluid, eyes closed. Do next inhale, we'll bring our hands together, heart center. Over the course of the next 7 days, can you remind yourself it can become easy to be so tightly attached to something that you lose sight of the availability of beauty around you, the options around you, the opportunities around you. See how that impacts your experience. Thank you so much for being a part of this morning's practice, for being you. Namaste. Happy Sunday, guys. Appreciate the heck out of you. I will be back tomorrow. If you want to move, I hope to see you then. If not, I'll see you next Sunday for another recharge. Have a beautiful holiday. Love the heck out of you. See you soon. Mwah.